The following podcast contains spoilers, adult language, and right-handed chirality. Whatever the hell that means.
This is a message from the Office of Emergency Preparedness. Due to the recent crisis, we ask that you remain in your homes. Do not attempt to communicate or interact with the creatures, even if they are people you know.
Lock your doors. Bar your windows. Evil is coming. It's time for Aim for the Head, a horror apocalypse entertainment podcast. And now, here are your hosts, Diana and Steve.
Hi, and welcome back to Aim for the Head podcast. I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
And this week, we're back talking about the third episode of the new Netflix series, The Boroughs. Title of this week's episode is A Pyramid. And if you are new to our podcast, usually what we like to do is we will quickly fire off our quick thoughts on the episode, how we felt about it, go through a quick episode description, talk about the writer and director, then get into our fine points, which is usually 5. We pick our top 5 from the episode and just sort of bounce back and forth on that. So I went first last episode where we talked about episode 2. So this week it's your turn. So Steve, what did you think of episode 3, A Pyramid?
I didn't get a chance to see it, but I hope to see it soon. No.
Was that a prerequisite for this week? I'm unclear.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, my dog ate my homework. So, when this episode started up, because again, I've seen them all already. I watched them all one time through already. So I kind of have an idea of what the story's going to be because I've seen it all. I remember that there was one episode there that early on that I'm like, oh my God, that was like my favorite episode of the whole series. And when this one started up, I'm like, yep, this is it. And so I honestly, I can't remember that I know that some of the later episodes are going to be close in terms of how much I like them, but I really think that this is my favorite episode.
Interesting.
First of all, this episode is 40 minutes long, right? And it is such fun. It blows by.
Yes.
I mean, you turn it on, and then literally like 5 minutes later, it's going. Do you want to watch the next one? But it's what I really love about this episode is we're still getting into the mystery. We're still trying to figure out what's going on, what's important, what's not. But from the moment they try and he's picking the lock with the YouTube video of the funeral home to the end of the episode with Art, from like that moment on, that whole scene in the funeral parlor, like with the autopsy and everything, it's just, for me, it's just wonderful because it's funny, it's a little scary, it's a little creepy. We get a few more breadcrumbs about what's going on. And you have obviously a really nice quiet little scene with Sam and Judy where she's kind of really confronting her loss of Jack, and and so it kind of has a little bit of everything, and so I really, really like this episode. I think it's just got a lot of fun stuff in it all the way around. So super, super enjoyed it. And, again, I mean, it's 40 minutes long. It's even better because it's like it's there. It starts. I mean, let's be honest, people. There were some Fear of the Walking Dead episodes that were 40 minutes long that we covered that lasted seemingly weeks.
I feel like I'm still watching that episode.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, there's a difference between good television watching and bad television watching. And yeah, this was, I mean, it's just, I really, really enjoyed it. So how about you? What did you think?
I really like this too. For me, I feel like I'm looking forward to the moment when like all 5 of these great characters sort of come together and to fight the unknown, XYZ, whatever it is, because we don't even really still know what they're up against. But I'm enjoying that, like, the people that are sort of separate, because you would say that both, Art is definitely separate because he's off on his own. Renee is not really sort of pulled into it yet. She's, like, sort of on the tangent. like out on the outskirt. But you know that the stuff that's going on in her, like, storage room and whatever, it's related, but we don't know yet how. So she's sort of off on the outskirts. But getting, like, Sam and Wally together is really great TV. They are a good mixture of people. And then Judy coming in, it's almost like you feel like it's like a little gang that's gonna solve crimes together kind of thing. And that's what you want. And it was really building off of that sort of, you know, when given the provenance of the Duffer Brothers being the producers, you go in with an expectation. You're expecting ensemble work, where there's a group that works together to fight against, the XYZ. And they've been a little bit separate. And so now to have, like, the beginnings of, like, our crew, and they work really well together. I love the camaraderie that's developing between Sam and Wally. And then when Judy was added in, she's got so much emotion about Jack, but she's also still with it. She's down to earth. She's making jokes. She's kidding with them. The jokes in this episode, like some of the puns and the jokes and the sight gags, whatever, they're just hilarious. And and still, like you said, growth of the story, growth of the plot, moving things forward, some creepy stuff, suspenseful stuff, some surprising things like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that. A little bit of sexy times, just what you want. A little romance, as it were. So, yeah, this was a great episode. It had so many really, really great sort of angles to it. And to me, I agree with you. The autopsy stuff is, and everything in the funeral home, whether they were in there working on Jack's body or outside with the discussions and the whatever, leading up to the autopsy, during and after, that was like the cornerstone of the whole episode. It was just so well done. It was really, really good. Very exciting stuff.
Yep.
So before we get into talking about some of our individual points from the episode, let's first go through what IMDb called this episode in terms of an episode description. Then we'll talk through the writer and the director of the episode first. So, Steve, why don't we start there with the episode description and go from there?
All right. Well, this is episode 1.3 of the Netflix series The Boroughs, entitled, as you said, A Pyramid. Interesting. And the description that we have, and I'm sorry to say, we're kind of back to those, like, the chatbot came up with the description.
Oh, yeah.
Just, just kind of some words together. You're like,
yeah,
huh?
Word
but
salad.
Anyway, what we have is Sam and Wally decide to take a risk. Renee and Paz's investigation bring them closer together. In bed. And Art seeks answers in the desert. And that is your episode description. And I suppose those things kind of happen. So well done, chatbot. Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. No mention of Judy, and she's such a large part of the episode.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, like you said, though, the Scooby Gang is slowly forming up because now, it's Sam and Wally, but then Judy kind of, worms her way into that group. So, you're right. But that we were saying that earlier, that like the previous episode descriptions rarely mentioned Art until this one. So,
Agreed.
It must just be the way they do it. Maybe they have a character limit or something. But anyway, moving along to our writer and our director, and we do have two new people for this time around, so that's kind of cool. And our writer is, and the cool thing is actually that in this case both of the writer and director are women, so I like that. That's pretty sweet. And the writer we have is a gal named Julie Siege. And she has a decent list of creds so far. She was a producer on Supernatural for 22 episodes, and she was also an episode writer, and she wrote 35 episodes of Supernatural. So yeah, lots and lots of stuff with Sam and Dean Winchester there. She also wrote episodes of there was a series called Black Sails, which is about pirates. It's a BBC series. There, she wrote several episodes of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. She wrote episodes of Narcos. I believe she wrote, and I think this was just a film called The Sinner. It might have been a series. I can't remember. And she also wrote episodes of the series Invasion from the early 2000s. So again, lot of writing credits and also a bunch of producer credits there with Supernatural as well. So that is our writer. And then our director is a gal named Augustine Frizzell.
Mm-hmm.
And she is we're going to see her again a lot, people, because she directs 4 of the 8 episodes of the Boroughs. So she will be making a reappearance. So that name will get familiar for everybody. And other stuff, she directed the movie Witch Mountain. She directed an episode or 2 of the HBO series Euphoria, which is the thing with Zendaya and Sydney Sweeney. And she also directed a film called Never Going Back from a few years ago. So not a ton of creds, but she definitely is kind of getting her career going right now. And like I said, she gets 4 episodes here in the Boroughs, and I thought that both of them did a really good job because, like I said, this is my favorite episode of the whole series.
This is your dream team, absolutely.
This is. Absolutely. So that is your writer and your director.
All right, so let's jump into the episode. So first off, chronologically, we would see the scene that involves my number 1, which is, look out, y'all, because, Judy, she's on the case. She's following her neighbors. She's looking out windows. She's figuring it out.
She's going to Nancy Drew the crap out of this.
Shit. So she... it all started so innocently. She was sitting outside. She just was in her grief, and she saw the flashes of light from.
She heard the noise.
And she saw, the little experiment that Sam and Wally ran in Sam's house when the stars in the universe sort of appeared in front of them. She's outside and she sees the flashing lights and what happens while they're doing that kind of stuff. So she goes over and peeks in the window. It's done, so all she sees is Wally and Sam together. Then you see her, she's hardcore. She's sitting right by the front window. She's got binoculars. She got her iPad where you can see that there's notes. You can't tell. But then she has a notebook where she's keeping notes, detailed notes, of all of the happenings on the street. It's at this point, someone took out the garbage. At this point, someone took a walk with the dog. I actually paused it to look at the list.
Oh, yeah. Well, and she writes down, because the opening scene is some Boroughs truck vehicle driving up and delivering a package.
Yeah.
And she's writing that in. And I like, too, that it's her, reporter's notebook.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's not like this isn't like a standard spiral notebook that us old folks used to take to school. No. This is one of those cool reporter things that flip the pages over the top, and oh yeah. So she's definitely digging into what she used to do for her career. And going back to that stuff. Yeah, I like that whole opening.
It was
too.
great. It was it's funny because in the first the first couple of things she does, you get, concerned. There's 2 things. She's coming at it, concerned neighbor, and also she's grieving Jack, and she knows that the guys have been acting strange ever since Jack. And she knows, Sam's the one who found Jack. She's pretty sure Sam was lying to her with the whole hammer and the whatever. So she's got a lot of stuff going on in her head and no place to put it. She just knows something's wrong here. So in the beginning, it seems very sort of concerned citizen-y, but then it gets very oh, she means business. Then she gets the phone call from her old colleague at the newspaper, and she looked up all of this stuff on Sam, and she's like, he's a Boy Scout. He's just a couple of speeding tickets. That's it. And she's like, okay. And so this whole thing, it's at first you're oh, she's just she's just like an old curious lady. And then it's clear, like, no, she's serious. She does her work. She's, she has experience doing investigative reporting. She does all of her legwork on certain things. She, like, crosses I's and dots T's here. And it was really interesting to see somebody like that. What I'm hoping is, and you've already watched the series, but I'm hoping that sort of energy that Judy has, I loved seeing it, because now that she's a part of the Scooby Gang, hopefully she'll be able to take that analytical mind, and maybe those, the person who was a phone call away and could look someone up on the internet for her, or look in, the NCIC, the database that, news people have access to, and look up,
Right.
do background checks on, etc. Like, I'm wondering, will she be utilizing that in the future for something else that has to do with what the hell is going on at the Boroughs? So it was nice, like, to see that sort of glimpse into, and maybe it's not now, but sometime, I haven't heard anybody say anything about this, but come on, you think the Duffer Brothers don't want to do something that's multiple seasons? I mean, I'd love to see more than one season. I have no idea how this all pans out at the end, but if it's possible to do more, I'd love to see more of these people, at least. So anyway, that's it. Judy's on the case. You guys better look out, because she's going to find out what you're doing, no matter what.
That's right.
So yeah, loved it. Yeah,
I did too. I again, you're right. All those things, you see the dogged reporter, the like, doing whatever it takes for the story. But I think that the other like kind of, like sad part of that opening is the relationship she has with Art. In that,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he wakes up and she's been up, clearly, like you said, she's been up for hours staring out the window at Sam's house, keeping track, and he comes down and he's like, coffee, and she's like, I already had mine, and then, he gets the message from the pharmacy, and she's literally like, yeah, I get those messages too. And, it's just very cold, and he then makes the announcement of, I'm going to go out into the desert for a few days, give you some space. And she's like, I didn't ask for space. And he kind of mutters, I need some space.
Yeah, basically. Poor guy.
But anyway, yeah. And you find out why, later on when he's talking to the dead bird, he's sort of, vocalizing his, feelings about what he thinks is going on between him and Judy, and then also Judy, when she's in the funeral home talking to Sam, she also kind of clues us into kind of the secret of their marriage, if you will, and also the one rule they had, and she broke it and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, you just see the two of them, and it's clear that they are like not in a good patch right now with their relationship.
Yeah,
so
it's sad. Yeah. All right. So Judy's my number one. So let's talk your number one. Let's get to that.
Yeah. So Judy sees Wally leave his house, and he's got this big cardboard box full of stuff, and so she, again, because she's in reporter, I got to figure out what's going on mode, she runs out with the garbage or something to kind of accidentally bump into him, and starts asking him, oh, where are you going with all this stuff? And he is just coming up with whatever excuse he can think of, and ultimately he says that he and Sam are planning to teach some science class in the community center, which, if you remember, he was banned from the community center for an orgy.
Yes.
Earlier, and she brings that up, are you sure that's what you want to tell me? Because she knows that he, is full of it in that case. And he says something like, hey, you got to get back in their good graces somehow or whatever. And then he leaves. So he goes in, and we find out he has spent $7,000 on some piece of medical equipment, and that's probably what was delivered that morning by that Boroughs truck that we see, and it's some kind of testing equipment, that he can put the sample in and it'll analyze it or break it down or do something, and of course Sam is just You spent how much? Like, what are you, crazy? Like, he's like, how much did it cost you? And Wally's like, I don't know, a little bit around 7. And he's like, 1,000? You spent 7,000? And I just wrote this down because I thought it was really funny because Wally just looks at him and goes, can't take it with you, Sam. The Pharaohs tried. All it got them was looted. So again, right off the bat, you get a great line, and Wally he's such a fun character. And I identify a lot with his approach, which is to make fun of everything, try and find the lighter side, because that's totally where I go in cases like that. When there's a lot of stress or there's a lot of depression, I'm always sort of like, hey, how about I do a trick, that kind of thing. So I really appreciated that. What did you think of the whole Wally and Sam kind of moment there at the beginning?
Oh, it's great. It's really establishing their, just their camaraderie. I like, if you hadn't seen flashbacks with Sam, you would think he's being like a gruff, like cranky old man right now. Wally seems very sort of more open and more playful, and Sam seems kind of gruff and closed off. But then when you see the flashbacks to Chicago and his wife, he is that way. He's just kind of like, only when he's in like a really, really intimate moment with his wife. But other than that, like his day to day, he's a gruff and grumbly kind of guy. That's how he is, and da 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 da. So that's his persona. So it's just kind of playful to see those two together in that scene. I think it's wonderful. I love the chemistry between the two of them. I think it's great so far. I love Sam and Wally together. It's great.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah. So further, there's I'm trying to think. There's the scene. I'm trying to think if your number 2 comes before or after my number 2.
I think it does. Yeah, I think it does. We kind of get we get that little quick scene where Art stops at like the coffee place to fill up his mug, and Renee is there, and we find out she's like her ex-husband is suing her. Apparently again, like he's done this multiple times, and so they kind of exchange, pleasantries, and then we cut back, and Art is on his way out, like he's heading out, like you said, to go out into the desert because he wants to go back and explore what happened with all the crows.
Yeah,
because that was kind of his moment of the divine. It would, like he said, is the first time he's experienced something he can't explain, and so he wants to get back to that. And so we have that little scene with Renee, and then he leaves, and then I think it goes back to Wally and Sam, and that's where we get all of the right-handed and left-handed chirality and all these words that Wally is making up on the fly, because we as normal people know that's not a real word. And anyway, and we kind of learn a little bit more about whatever it was that it was, tongue kissing Jack, and that he hit with the hammer, and what they learned, that it wasn't like a monkey that had been shaved, and it wasn't like a coyote with mange, and all these things. And I like when Wally points out, I think he's like, and it wasn't a figment of your imagination, which I think that scores some big time points with Sam, because he's like, damn straight, but then basically Wally says that, the problem we have is that he used up like all the blood they had to run these tests, so they don't have any more. Right. And so Sam's like, well, what do we do? And he's like, it's hopeless. There's nowhere to go now. And Wally basically says, look, you got 2 choices. We can give up, or we can go all the way. And we both know where the first one ends, and nobody knows where the second one leads. And then he just kind of looks at him and goes, what do you want to do? And I believe it's he says that because Wally comes up with the idea of we could do an autopsy on Jack. Right. And that's like where we might find some clues because they realized the monster was doing something to Jack. Maybe there's some evidence there. And they obviously have a time thing because they're going to cremate him. And so he's just like, we can break in tonight. And ending, like you said, Wally is so upbeat, like, we'll break in, we'll be in and out, no one will even know. And of course, Sam's like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
You know, and that's when he lays on this line of like, look, man, you know, you got to decide, do you want to do this or not? Because if you want to do this, we got to do it.
Right.
And Sam kind of reluctantly is like, okay, I guess we're breaking into the funeral home.
Yeah, they sort of,
So,
they're in that feeling, and that's when there's like a knock at the door.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
that's when they're like, oh God, who could it be? And Wally's like, oh God, Judy, it's probably Judy. She was following me to the garbage and da-da-da.
I think he even says she was Nancy Drewing around us
Yeah.
or something. So that,
it's
because
probably,
he brings
probably
it.
Judy. And he gets to the door.
I'll get rid of her.
Yeah. And you know, Wally's trying to like clean stuff up, whatever. And then he gets to the door and he's like, oh, it's his son-in-law, Neil. And there's this great moment where it's like, oh, Neil. And he's like, hey, Sam, you know, da-da-da, whatever. And I had to write it in there. Like, the scene between Sam and Neil is, it's a cute little scene, and it paves the path for the entire episode because he brings up the whole, you know, grief as a pyramid instead of a straight line, which was an interesting thing to say. But the funny part of the scene for me was, you know, Sam says out loud, he's like, oh, Neil, how are you? And in the background, you can hear Wally go, oh, you're Neil? I've heard so much about you. And he doesn't even say you, and the door is slammed shut. So I've heard so much about you. It's done.
Oomph.
And it's done. And then Sam's outside, and he has this conversation with Neil, which is, it was nice because he really sort of gives it to him where he's like, the end of it, because he's a gruff and grumbly old man. He's a grumpy old man. And, you know, and he's mourning, and you understand that. And he just seems like he's just always a prickly guy. Like, he's just always, like, upset or irritated.
Well, and he clearly doesn't really like Neil
that
much.
Neil calls him on that. He's like, listen, I know you've never really liked me, but he basically is like, listen, you may be in mourning, but I'm here for your daughter. She's hurting too. Like, you didn't just lose your wife, your daughter lost her mother. And that's
right.
And so he's basically, and he calls him on it, he's like, listen, you have to remember, you're also a dad. And so you may be a widow, but you're also a dad, and she lost her mom is basically everything he was saying. And he's like, don't forget that. And he leaves, and you can see that Sam is really, really affected by what Neil said, because he's right. He doesn't really like Neil. He doesn't really like his son-in-law, but he loves his daughter. And you can see in that moment that he understands everything Neil said. And what I sensed there was guilt, and he was ashamed of how he'd been with his daughter. Because it takes something like that. It takes someone to really push something in your face for you to really realize how you've been. And in that moment, he really understood that he's not the only one mourning the loss of his wife, for sure.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you missed the most important thing, that this entire scene is basically a conversation with Sam Neill. Which, hello. Okay, hello.
And I also want to...
Event Horizon, anyone?
Yeah, and I also want to include, it's in my honorable mentions, but I figured we're in the scene anyway, that is the appearance of what I will now have a continuing series of called The Week in Chicago T-shirts. And every week he's going to wear something that makes me think he's adorable, and he really did live in Chicago, and he's wearing a House of Blues T-shirt.
House of Blues.
Which is great.
Yes, he is.
So I'm looking forward to see what next week's T-shirt will be.
Oh, it's awesome. It's Wrigley Field. No, it's not. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're right. And when Neil hits him with the, I know that you can't see past anything with your grieving right now, but then he just lays it out by saying, but you know what? You're a dad. You have to.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's the thing where he doesn't have to go in and explain. I mean, he mentions that Claire's hurting too, but he doesn't have to say anything else of like, she lost her mom. And you're not the only one. All he said was, you know what, you're really, you can't look past anything but how upset you are, but because of your responsibilities as a father, you got to get over it and do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, you're right. It totally affects him. It totally affects Sam, because like the whole reason that Neil's there is he's going to get that Bruce Springsteen album, the Born to Run album, that she called and asked, hey, could I borrow it? And, I mean, look, a lot of stuff has happened to Sam, so it's clearly not at the top of his list.
Yeah.
But, he literally just blows it off like, yeah, I haven't found it yet. I got to go buy. And that's when Neil kind of lays it on him of like, hey, man, you're not just, like you said, you're not just alone in all this. And there are other people that are hurting probably maybe even worse than you are. And you have to consider them too. And I like that. And then it ends on a funny bit when he gives him the self-help book and tries to explain that, it's about how grief is a pyramid and all that stuff. Yeah. And you're just like, oh my God, go away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, he means well, but you're just like, dude, leave. All right, just go, but anyway, it also sets up the title of the episode too.
Oh yeah.
So.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
All right, so that was my number 2. So we sort of like went back and forth. Go ahead. No, what were you going to say?
I was going to say number 3 is kind of the same.
Do we both have numbers? Oh, we do. So we'll both talk about Art's little jaunt out into the desert. And there's a lot of stuff that happens there, but the first thing, my thing is the first thing he does, which is when it's still light out, he goes out and he does like a really nice burial for Brooksy, which I thought was really sweet. And he's talking to Brooksy. And
he is.
I'm not going to lie. I've had those times where if, and it's going to happen like the second week in July when I'm by myself in the house, I'm going to talk to the cat because it's the only way to sort of feel like, okay, I'm not going to go crazy because there's nobody to talk to. And I think Art talking to Brooksy is emblematic of 2 things, which is he's very like emotionally open and accepted Brooksy into his life as like some sort of totem or some sort of symbol of things. But it's also he's not talking to his wife anymore. And he's talking to Brooksy about all the things that he would want to talk to his wife about. And so burying Brooksy, especially like when he left, it was just so painful because there's so much going on between Art and Judy that, I mean, yes, she was with Jack, but was for a short period of time, which means they were having troubles or misunderstandings or not connecting. And you could say like, he bugs out every day or whatever, but like when he woke up and was like, she's like, oh, I already had coffee. And he goes over. Something as small as like, there's no coffee left in the coffee pot. She drank the last of it and didn't make more, thinking he would want any. It's little things like that. And I'm not saying he's perfect, because he's not. But his response to that is they're not talking to each other. She went and sought out Jack, and he talked to a crow. So they both...
A dead crow at that.
She is burying the person she was talking to. He is burying the thing that he was talking to. So they both had those sort of occurrences happen in the same episode, saying goodbye to the person or the thing that was most important to them, in essence. And I love that he did sort of like... It felt very like sort of Native American kind of coded. Like he goes out, he digs, he puts the little rocks and the stones around. He gives him a little headstone and writes Brooksy. And I just thought it was really well done, really, really well done.
And what I liked was that when he buried Brooksy with a bunch of like stuff that clearly Brooksy brought with him, like the bottle cap and all that, and so that was, again, it was I mean, if you just like were to approach that scene with no context, you're like, there's a crazy person. But when we see what he'd been going through, like you said, you realize how important Brooksy had become to him because, clearly while Judy was off, spending time with Jack, that took away from, like you said, the person that he could talk to, that he would bounce his crazy ideas about life off of, and all their whole relationship dynamic changed when she started seeing Jack. You can just tell, and so he substituted her for a crow. So there you go.
Yeah.
And yeah, the whole bit, like he has like the rock that he etched Brooksy's name in, and he wraps it up in that kind of towel, or I mean, he goes. It's not just like he just like throws it in the garbage, or flushes it or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of thought there and reverence, there that yes, it's just a dead bird, but it meant a lot more to him, and it was, yeah, it's really interesting. And then he, like, the way he eulogizes or says goodbye to Brooksy, he points out that, like, Brooksy's death brought him this experience that has, given him hope that there is something more to life than just kind of knocking around and, getting up in the morning and drinking your coffee and all that, you know what I mean? Which is kind of, you get the impression that he kind of had always been looking for that his whole life.
Right. And
he had never found it, and he was kind of resigned to the point of, like, man, what if there isn't anything after this?
Yeah.
What if this is it? And that really bummed him out, and he was like, ugh, that's terrible,
Yeah.
And now suddenly there's something has come up that he's like, oh my God, I can't explain what just happened.
Right.
And he even tells Brooks, he's like, I'm really sorry that you had to pay the price for this. For me getting this, you had to die for me to do this, and that's awful.
Right.
But thank you, and so it's a real interesting scene. And then he gets up and he leaves Brooksy, and you see, like, over the next sand dune, there is, like, literally this path of just dead crows.
Yeah, it's funny because
go off into the desert.
It's funny because when they show it, it's all very in the distance. So the first time I watched it through, I was paying attention to what was very, very on the horizon, which looks like there's a little bit of like a canyon of some kind, like way further down. Mm-hmm. And the first time through, I missed that all of the crows were there. You see it in the very next cut, which is him walking along, and the crows are all littered around his feet as he's walking. So you get that, but the very first time through, I was looking at the whole vista, like, sort of beyond where the crows were, and I missed them in the front.
Oh, okay.
So it was the second time through, and I was like, oh, hang on, pause, go back. Were those all... Oh, those are all crows. Get it. So he literally followed... He didn't just go and try and find the crows. He literally was up above and saw that there's, like, a path, and he went and followed them along, which I didn't quite get the first time through, but the second time through, it made it a little more clear.
Yeah, well, and the bizarre or divine thing about it is he follows this path, like, all day and into the night, and it leads him up to that, like, abandoned old mine building, whatever it is. I mean, the crows go right up to the door.
Right.
I mean, literally, it is a path leading him to that.
Yes, go here,
that
please.
Location. Yes, which again, I mean, it's just like, oh my God, what is going on, right? So yeah, the art stuff was really great in this episode, and I love the way that we cut away. Like, don't get me wrong, like you said, the autopsy funeral home scene, that's like the set piece of the whole episode.
Absolutely.
But our director, Miss Frizzell, does a really good job of she builds the autopsy scene, and then she darts away and either goes to Art continuing his journey or goes to the Renee and Paz stuff, because all of it's happening at the same time. And the Art stuff is great because it's the like, in the episode, it's the most of the what the hell is going on here
Yes.
part of the episode, right? And the Renee stuff's got a little bit of it, but Renee obviously has the sexy time and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And then the rest of the stuff with the Scooby Gang is there's a little bit of that, you know, when we get into what he finds inside Jack's mouth and all that. But it's mostly I think it's just very funny and yet also very poignant when Judy kind of talks to Sam about what was going on between her and Jack and all that. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, the art stuff was great, and the path of crows. I mean, literally, when have you ever seen a path of dead crows?
I loved it. I just thought visually, it's like you said. When have we seen that before? So it's not something we've seen used in this sort of, you know, mystery science fiction-y sort of sense before. I mean, crows are definitely something that's utilized in all kinds of, like, you know, visual storytelling, whether it's, you know, movie or what have you, TV show. I've seen crows utilized before, but in this way, this is so different. It's so different. It's great.
Well, and just if you go back to episode 1, you know, first of all, they're just up in the air in this like swarm. You know, I mean, they're thousands and they're flying in this big formation and, you know, making these majestic turns, you know, and it's this really interesting. You're like, wow, what's going on? And then on a dime, they all just start pile driving into the, you know, like kamikaze into the crowd. You know, and you're like, oh, what are you doing? You know, and then, of course, that's weird enough as it is. But then here we find out that, oh, no, wait, they didn't just kill themselves and fall into the ground. They did it and left like a path for him to follow. I mean, it's crazy and awesome and different, and I thought it was great.
Yeah, unbelievable. So let's talk through. The whole.
I love this. This is so
There's
great.
so much. I have. Let me see. 1, 2. I've got two notes from the scene, and you cover the whole scene. So let's talk funeral home and the autopsy. Like I said, it's the centerpiece of the whole episode. And it's just really well crafted because, you know, it starts out with them being, you know, in the space, they're looking around, and then they hear something at the door or near the door. They go and look, and oh god, it's Judy, and she sprays the pepper spray.
Oh, that scene makes me laugh every time because she's like ah, and she sprays them, and then Wally's like,
hey,
how old is this pepper spray? And then she looks at the bottle, she's like, expired in 2002. Oh, it's so great.
It's incredible. I mean, I honestly don't think I've ever seen the use of pepper spray and have been expired. I didn't even know that's something that could happen, but I mean, it makes sense. But she's had the pepper spray for 25 years, you know?
Right.
So it's like, you look at that and you're like, that gives you a sign. It makes her seem older, you know, seems more senior. Like, of course, your senior citizen would have a bottle of pepper spray from 25 years ago and think, oh, it's fine. There's nothing wrong.
Still gonna work, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess not.
Well, and I think it also it really at that point of the scene, it really brings out how much she thinks that they like killed Jack.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like she definitely thinks that there's something underhanded going on and they're mixed up in it. Which, I mean, with Sam, I can see it because he's the new guy. But it's like, really, you think Wally would have helped him kill Jack? What? Why? You know what I mean? But she's just so caught up in her grief that's where her head is. You know, but because I mean, she's angry when she reveals herself in that moment, and you know, literally, you know, they're like, you know. What does Sam say? Something like, Jack was murdered. And then she looks at him and goes, not by us.
Yeah.
You know, and then he's like, if you want, and then they're like, the answer is, you know, through that door, pointing to like where the bodies are, the morgue or whatever. And he goes, if you pull the fire alarm, because that's what she's threatening to do, right, and bring everybody there. Yeah. He's like, if you do that, we'll never know what killed him or who killed him. And then she like kind of like okay. And, then she's like slowly becoming, part of the Scooby Gang at that point. But yeah, the pepper spray, again, like we said, first of all, he's picking the lock while Wally is holding up his phone and they're watching a YouTube video on how to pick locks.
Cannot even. That's on my honorable mentions too. Is using YouTube to. I laughed because I use YouTube for so many things. Whenever someone's like,
I do too.
"How do you do this?" I'm like, "I don't know. Google it, and Google will tell you." And eventually, you're gonna find like a YouTube video that shows you how do you think I learned how to edit the podcast? For Christ's sakes, like
I'm sure.
Like, literally, it's all about Google the question, find the video, find the YouTube video, and that's how you do it. So it was. For a hot second when I first watched the episode and they showed him they were at the door, I couldn't understand what was happening for the first second or two, and I was like, is he like listening to music or a podcast or something? But then when it became clear that he's like watching a YouTube video, but he's also, that just goes to show how mechanically inclined he is though too, which is he watches a YouTube video in the dark for the first time and gets it done.
And he gets it done, yeah. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times, like, with my car, when, like, something would happen, and I'll be like, I need to replace this, or I need to see if I can, and I'll be like, how do I do that? And do I go to the manual? No. Do I go to the website from the car manufacturer? No. I just Google it, find a YouTube video from somebody who posted it. I'm like, oh, that's how you do it. Okay. It's amazing how that has become such a tool for our everyday life. When you need to fix something, you need to figure out how to open something or do something. It's like, no, don't try and just sit there and figure it on your own. Just let someone tell you how to do it. And you're right. The fact that he can do it under those conditions and he gets it to work just shows you, how good of a mechanical engineer he is, and so on. But yeah, from that moment, they open the door that way, they get in, then Judy shows up, we get the great pepper spray moment, and then Judy agrees to go with them, and they go into the lab part of the funeral home, and he, has the body, and it's so great because he's like, you guys might want to step out for this.
Yeah.
and Judy's like, nope, I'm going to stay. And Sam's like, yeah, I'm okay. And so then he takes the sheet off and we see, there's Bill Pullman, he had a lot to do this episode. Yeah. He had to lie there on the slab, the whole time he's sitting there going, I'm getting paid a ton of money to do this.
I get to get paid for keeping my eyes closed.
That's right. I had to sit in makeup for a little bit so they could kind of give me that waxen look, but that's it, and so, he's getting ready to do it. And Judy, she wow, the reaction is visceral when she sees him.
And to be fair, before she had that reaction, Wally was trying to be nice and was like, you guys might want to step out while I'm doing this. And they're both like, no, I want to stay. And he knew that Judy's reaction was going to be the emotional one, not so much that oh, it's gross, it's a dead body or whatever. He plays on Sam with that in the next moment. But in this moment, he really meant this is going to be painful to see, emotionally. And he was right.
Well, and do you think he knew that she and Jack were knocking boots?
I think he suspected that something was going on. I don't know if because she made the comment later about spent the night there a couple of times, and he was like, oh, okay. And I think he suspected that something was going on, but didn't know the extent of it.
Yeah. I didn't either. Because when she has that reaction, where she almost sobs. It's intense. And there's a shot of Sam and Wally, and they're both looking, and Sam looks at Wally and kind of gives him this little look. It's a real quick scene, and she notices it because she brings it up to Sam later on when they're outside talking. And that's when she's like, how did you, because she sees that and she's like, how did you, when did you know that we were together? And that's, that leaves it there. But what my impression is that, that Wally really didn't know, either didn't know at all, or like you said, didn't know for sure until she says, hey, I spent a few nights at Jack's, and so
Yeah.
maybe the thing, and then he's like, okay, like, all right, well, good, there we go. But yeah, and so she leaves, right? She can't handle it, and she goes outside, and so. And you wrote this line down, and I was so close to writing this line down, but all I did is I just put the autopsy scene because I loved all of it, including this line. But please tell this exchange is just great. Oh my God,
Yeah.
it's so funny.
Yeah. Oh, the exchange I have in there? Oh,
Yeah,
God, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were talking about something else. My bad. So he, after the moment, and she leaves, and he kind of wants, maybe you should go sit with, oh, she'll be fine, you don't want to be here for this. And he's like, I'll be fine. And then he says, well, he's like, honestly, he's like, it won't be pleasant. And he's trying to like sort of get there slowly. He's like, there's all sorts of areas that are plugged up.
You gotta unpack them. Yeah,
them
you're like, oh
and
God,
you're like,
oh
oh,
God.
he's going there, and he's like, when I unseal his mouth, he may release fluids and odors, and he goes, I'll go check on Judy, and he's gone in a hot second.
The first, when he says that, he reaches out to hand Sam like one of those little like respirator, like masks we wore during COVID.
There'll be odors, and he hands it, and he's like, I'll go check on Judy, and he's gone.
Oh yeah, it's so funny because he's like, I'm gonna go outside now. Yeah, and then I believe Wally goes, good call.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, just a wonderful way to kind of lighten up what could have been a really dark moment, otherwise, this is obviously a friend of theirs, right? That, Sam didn't quite have as much invested in him yet, but Sam clearly liked Jack. And, here he is. And first of all, he's dead, which would be weird enough anyway. But then, you know what? This other guy's going to cut him open. What? Are you nuts? So yeah, I again, very funny sequence. And this leads to another sequence, which I love, which is that Sam goes outside and he and Judy sit down and they have this long talk. And Judy basically, asks, how did you know? And he says the Tiger Balm, right? And brings that back, which Jack had talked about. And then she had talked about at the party and all that. And then she talks about her relationship with Art and how, they met in the 70s and, they had big hair and, big dreams and all this stuff. And then basically she said, everything we did together. We decided together to get married. We decided together to have children. And then she says, like, we decided, we could screw who we wanted to when we wanted to. And the only rule is don't fall in love. And then Sam looks at her and goes, you fell in love with Jack, didn't you? And she's just busted up by it because she knows how much it's hurting Art and she knows how much she's hurting that Jack's gone. And there's this great moment where, she points out that, like, I know I'm old. I see myself in the mirror. I can feel my body and I know it's not how I used to be. And Jack always could see like the girl in me and made me feel like that girl again. And Sam has this great line where he goes, Jack saw us the way we wished we could be.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really, really cool line about kind of summing up the how Jack was and why he was so jovial and friendly with everybody, and everybody liked Jack and all that stuff. And so, yeah. So what did you think of that whole exchange between the two?
I thought it was great because I thought it was a really great mix of, like you were just saying, it could have been a really like sad and maudlin scene, and he really does connect with Judy on an emotional level. And I think there's a lot there that's being unsaid, which is Sam's going through a mourning period right now as well. And so he sees a bit of himself in Judy as well. Judy is losing it because of this person that she's in love with. And because Jack also died suddenly. It's not like he was sick or anything. So It's the same thing that Sam was going through with his wife.
With Lily.
Lily, thank you. I was going to say Alice, and I don't know why.
No, not Alice.
Lily. So what he was going through with Lily, that was so like unexpected and so like snap, like happened like that. You're not prepared. And I think in that scene, he sees like this is like, I understand what you're going through because I've just been going through that. I'm still going through it. And they really connect there. They have an emotional moment talking about Jack. And then when he makes it clear, like, who Jack was to everybody, like you said, that he's the person who's just, he's a happy guy, and he helps you see the things that he makes you see in yourself, like like those nice things. And then when he tries to make her feel better and say the whole, like, grief is a pyramid, not a line, and then God. Like, oh, bless his heart, and whatever. It's just a really funny, like, moment, and you can see, like, the bond they have there. Now, mind you, Judy also knows a lot about Sam because she did all that investigating. So she knows that on paper, he is a really, really fantastic guy. Absolute Boy Scout, like, never been in trouble, devoted to his wife, yada yada, like all the stuff she looked up, being like an investigative reporter / nosy neighbor. And now she can take that and apply that and make it a real person in front of her. And Sam really is, I mean, he's prickly, like, on the in the beginning, but he really is a sweet and kind guy, and she knows Wally really well. So for Wally and Sam to get along, that means something, and Judy feels like part of the group. So the the Judy and Sam moment is really like the best moment out of the whole autopsy scene, because it's emotional but funny all at the same time, and it's everything that's great about this series. You know what I mean? To have like a really deep moment, but also be able to chuckle as well. Just really, it's just it's such a light touch, and it's really, really well done.
I did like it when he's trying to explain the whole grief thing that Neil had said, and she's like, "Who told you that?" And he's with my son-in-law, and I think she goes like, "Is he slow?" or something like that, and he's like, "No, actually, he's a college professor." And that's when she's like, "Oh, bless his heart, like you idiot," Yeah, wonderful scene. And then also, speaking of Lily, we should point out earlier, Sam has like a little like freak out moment in the funeral parlor when he sees the wreath.
Yep.
And he sees her name, and he's like, like he's frozen. It's right before Judy reveals herself to them, and Wally's like, "Are you okay?" And he comes back and he looks at what Sam's fixated on, which is this like big funeral wreath, and it's got somebody else's name. It's he doesn't see it, and then Sam looks and the name is changed back to the to the what originally was. But again, that, like we said, that whole autopsy funeral parlor scene has like a little bit of everything in it, and it was just fun.
Yeah.
The whole bit of it, all of it.
Yeah. And so the final part of the autopsy scene is when Wally brings them back in to talk about what he's found, which is basically there's some some marks at the back of his throat. Don't mind me, folks. I'm so sorry. I have a little bit of a cold, so I'm sorry for the coughing and stuff. And so he brings them in and tells them about the little marks that are at the back of Jack's throat. He shows them, and they see it, so you can tell. And then he has like this side conversation with Sam, who's like, "Well, the creature." And then Judy's like, "Creature?" And you're like, "Oh, right, she's not up to speed on."
Yeah, you guys tell me what the hell is going on.
100% of everything. All they did was say, "We didn't kill him. We want to find out what did kill him. Oh, we forgot to tell you. There was a creature that was on his chest that was like plugged into his mouth and was sucking his life force out, or something like that."
And we know it's not a shaved monkey.
Yes. Exactly. Or what was the other thing?
A coyote with mange.
Yeah, coyote with mange. I love that. So now they have to they describe just a tiny bit to Judy about what's going on, and that they know that, when Sam came in, the creature was sort of attached inside Jack's mouth at the time. And so, it looks like the spots in the back of the throat, they lead to the brain stem, is basically what he's saying. And they're talking it through, and both Judy's like, "Well, you need to check me." And he's like, "Well, why?" And she's like, "Well, I had spent some nights at Jack's house." And that's when Wally's like, okay. So that makes sense.
Sure.
So we'll check you too. But then Sam is smart and he's like, well, you need to check me as well. And he's like, well, why you? And he's like, well, Edward said that they were in his walls. He's like, those are my walls now. They could have come out and I wouldn't know. And so he does check them, and they both have the marks in their throat.
But it's so funny the way he does it. Because he looks in Judy's mouth and he's like, okay. And then he goes over to Sam. He's like, know the drill. And he's like, he's like, okay. And then he kind of steps back and he goes, you both have them.
And of course, we already know that Wally is in like stage 4 of cancer. So he's already doing the whole like accepting that he's going to die soon thing. So he's very, very like matter of fact about, yep, you've got it. And so do you. And that's what I know.
Yeah. Well, it's a combination of he's like you said, dying, but he's also clearly like was a doctor for, his whole career.
Yes.
So he has that kind of ability to just present the medical facts to people without, getting all emotional. He many times had to walk into a room and say, yeah, you've got leukemia or you've got, cancer or whatever, you know what I mean? And so I think it's a little bit of both that he just has that to fall back on his experience of like, look, there's no point in me dancing around this or trying to sugarcoat it. I'm just going to say, yeah, you both have it.
Yeah. Exactly.
What does that mean? We don't know yet. I mean, you seem fine, but whatever, we'll see. And yeah. But yeah, interesting. What did you think when that revelation happened? When
I think it's like interesting because he looks in and then he says it, but we don't see it. So he could be lying, even though he said, "Oh, I'm not a liar." And why would he lie about that? But I think it'd be interesting to actually see. Oh yeah, there's the mark. But we didn't see it. So I'm skeptical because that's my job as a person watching a mysterious television show. I'm supposed to be kind of skeptical of everything. But assuming, everything is as he says, I like that scene. I think it's interesting. Because it obviously means that whatever they're doing, they're not killing someone. They're like doing whatever it is they're doing. Jack died because it interfered with his CPAP machine. That's why it's not the creature killed him. The creature dislodged his CPAP in order to do what he did, and that's what killed Jack.
Right. Yeah.
So so that is clear. So especially since we get the scene later where we see him doing it, one of them doing it to Renee. So we know that it's just like a thing. We come in, we tap ourselves into their mouth, and then they're like, and then they wake up or flip over. I'm already out of the room, and it's done.
Yeah.
So the fact that they're still alive and they have the marks, which means it's happened to them already, is interesting. So that means it could be happening to anyone. And it made me think of this line, which is when they were talking about it and said that, if this had been happening to Jack and if it happened to the two of them, Judy says, so it could be feeding on anyone. And Sam says, or everyone. Because, Sam just got there and already he's been a target. So that's a really interesting thing. So I'm curious to see if there's going to end up being like a, these are the people that have been fed upon, or is there going to be groups of people that are and aren't fed upon? And maybe that's what leads to like the dementia that some people get. Maybe they eventually end up with dementia because they've sucked too many of their brain cells out or something. Huh? I don't know. But the whole thing
that would explain Edward.
It would. But the whole thing is really interesting. And it's interesting to know that it's not going to just be this storyline that they follow where they're trying to figure out, the whole quote unquote, what happened to Jack? There's more implications involved than just figuring out what happened to Jack. Now they have to sort of figure out what's going on because they are much more involved than they initially thought they were. So that's why I think that bit of information was certainly very, very interesting. Yeah.
I agree.
All right,
agree.
so
yeah. Like I said, it was about this episode. Like when this episode ended, that's when I started to go, I wonder if this is, I kind of had my theory of what the overall story was, and I was right. So, and I'm going to say no more. I'm just going to say this was the bit where I went, aha, I think I know, and I turned out to be right. So, but like we said, the autopsy scene is just everything about it. It has a little bit of everything, and it's wonderful storytelling.
Yeah, it did not disappoint.
No.
So what's great is our last points. Technically my number 6, your number 5. I went a little over the count. My bad.
Oh my God,
How
woman!
Dare I? We both.
Next, you tell me you bought a new mattress.
I did buy a new mattress.
See?
Who even am I anymore?
Used to be about the music.
Now it's about the mattress.
About
let me tell you,
sleeping.
the older you get, it's more about how comfortable it is when you go to sleep.
You know it. Anyway.
So let's talk about the art scene.
Yes.
Which isn't technically the final scene of the episode, but it's like the second to final scene. And so we get, Art goes in to this, like you said, it's like a mining cabin or like an abandoned.
It's like the opening. It's like the opening of a mine shaft or something. Yeah, because it's like there's wood, there's a door, but then it very quickly is like a cave.
Yeah, and he comes. He's walking all the way in. He goes all the way down like what seems like a hallway, leads him to this big wide open area.
And we should point out he slices his hand open.
Yes, to get
on
inside.
the door.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
he's got this. I mean, it's like a bad. It's not like a little paper cut. I mean, he's got like that's like stitches type of a wound.
Yes.
I mean, it's a lot. And so he's like but he keeps going in. And yeah, you're right. He kind of we go to this big opening where there is something that I don't think he was expecting to find.
Yeah, exactly. When he came in. And I have to ask you, when I first saw this image, and it turns out it's like a tree of sorts, and we don't know a lot about the tree yet. We just know that there's peaches on the tree, and there's also like charms and really like sort of pretty things like light catchers catching the tree. It's very cool looking. But from a distance, the way the light is coming down and hitting the tree from above, it gave me real Last of Us vibes in that first moment. It looked a lot like a couple of those moments where, like, when they had first left the Boston zone and it was the three of them together before What's-Her-Face is killed. There's that scene where they're in, like, that, that mall that's overrun with vegetation and or is the hotel? It was the hotel or something.
The hotel,
yeah. And she's like in this room and there's vegetation everywhere and just this pin light coming from a hole in the ceiling and sort of lighting that moment. So it really, really felt like that scene in season 1 of Last of Us to us and to me. So Art comes forward, and he goes up to the tree, and he sees that there's peaches. He pulls one off, and he kind of rubs it, because it looks a little different. It doesn't look like... It looks like a peach, but like kind of not like a... He's not sure, and when he rubs it a little, some of it either gets on his hand from him holding it, and you can see it he opens his hand to the camera, and you see the mark from the cut on his hand, and it slowly closes up, and it's gone.
Yep, heals up instantly, yeah. And I should point out, there is one peach on the tree.
Oh, is there? Oh, I thought there was many.
Just the one. No, there's just one, yeah.
So he takes that peach, thank you for taking the one peach off the tree, but he, after seeing that it he's healed on his hand, he takes that peach, and he takes a big old bite from the peach.
He do.
And then the scene with Art is over. We just see that visually. And I have a lot of questions about that tree, because the fact that it's all decked out in all of these like really pretty sort of sun catchery charms, and it looks really pretty. I'm curious about like the connection with the crows, because the crows knew about this place, and crows are well known for, I mean, Brooksy brought little trinkets to Art, and that's what crows are known for. Once they get a relationship with someone, you know, if you left out seed for a crow, it might bring you like a piece of string or a piece of twine or something that they found.
You know, it's never a 20. You know what I mean?
I know, you try and you try and you try, and it just never pays.
I'm trying to find ways to make money. It never works.
It never works. It's so sorry. So because of that, I'm curious if we're going to find out, like, did the crows build that tree? Did they bring all those trinkets? And because it is something that they're known for. And I'm curious about, like, all of there appears to be, like, you know, there's, like, clear, like, crystals and things like that, but there's other stones and things. So is that where the Rhodes quartz ended up? Is it all hanging from that tree? So I just, there's a lot of questions because, you know, it ended right away and we didn't learn a lot about it. But what about you? How do you feel about, like, the tree, the scene with Art, like, how it played out? What are your thoughts there?
Again, it's this weird, like, what is this? Because, like, there's really not a lot of access to sunlight in this cave.
Yes.
You know, so yeah, how is this tree growing like this? I mean, it's about as ridiculous as a tree growing in Chris Hemsworth at the end of Furiosa, right?
Yes.
You know, I mean,
but that was also a peach as well, which made me think of that as well.
I did too. And little spoiler here is that we will see the tree again, and you will get a chance to see a little bit closer, like, what is all hanging on it, you know, decorating it or whatever. So your questions will be answered. And I just am not going to tell you. So, but I mean, when he comes in there, you know, it's this weird tree and it's kind of glowing, right? And you're right, there's all these things, these like weird, like sparkly, shiny things, like almost like a Christmas tree, you know, like ornaments on a tree kind of a thing. And they're all kind of dancing in the light. And there's just like this one, like you said, oversized, something not quite normal peach.
Yes.
On the tree. And he literally, when he pulls it, either a little bit of the juice or maybe just the skin is on the wound. And like you said, the wound just instantly heals up and is gone. And then, he just, you know, he does that big, you know, that like bite, you know, like you do in a really fresh peach. And you're like, ooh, what's going to happen here? and you know, then of course it cuts to, well, you know, whatever. I don't remember if it was Sam being put into the security car or if it was Renee and Paz sleeping or whatever. But yeah, there's like another little scene before it cuts to black. But yeah. Again, I loved it because it's bizarre and you're not really sure what does it mean and how does it fit into everything else we have going on. So yeah. But I will tell you, some of your questions will be answered. So this is not lost. So
how refreshing! I enjoy that.
Yes.
So should we? I already talked my honorable mentions, but let's talk about yours.
I just had one, and that is, I think when you know Sam gets caught by Hank.
Yes.
I think they start playing this music that kind of plays over the whole end of the episode. So it's like this entire song, so it's like 3 minutes long. And so all of the vignettes that make up this story, this episode, the music is under. So we get it under Sam, we get it under Renee and Paz, and we get it under Art. And it's music by this musical group called Dead Man's Bones. And as soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I don't know if you're familiar with Dead Man's Bones at all, but it's a duo. And man, I want to say they made one album, and it was like in 2009 or 2010, so like 15, 16 years ago. And the whole album, every song is like supernatural themed.
Nice.
And in like there was another song that got a lot of popularity that was called like The Ghost in the Room. And believe me, I mean this group this is perfect for our audience because it's all themed in stuff we like, right? So you're gonna be drawn to the music. And trust me, when you're like, I've never heard of them, but trust me because you have heard the music because it's appeared in a bunch of other shows. I think it's been in a video game or two. So, I mean, it's made the rounds in the 15, 16 years. But the cool thing about it is the whole album, you hear like the children singing in this song, as it's playing. And the whole album they recorded with like a children's choir from like Los Angeles or something. And so almost all the songs on the album use the children's choir, which is kind of cool. But the really interesting thing is that it's a duo. And one of them is this guy named Zach Shelby, who is a Hollywood director. He's directed a couple of features and is, kind of, doing that. And this is sort of like a little side project that he started to do. But the other guy in Dead Man's Bones is Ryan Gosling.
That's crazy.
I know, right? It's just like, what? It's like, what is there anything that guy can't do?
I know.
And apparently that they met when they met in Hollywood, they found out that both of them have this like weird affinity for like ghosts and the supernatural and stuff. And I don't know if this is true or not, but when I first heard about it, the story was that like when Ryan Gosling was a kid in Canada, his family moved out of his childhood home because his parents thought it was haunted. And so he's had a whole like lifetime of experience with ghosts and paranormal stuff. And Zach Shelby has been fascinated with ghosts since he was a little kid, to the point where like he had to go into therapy about it because it was like he was obsessing over it or something. Again, I don't know if that's true. That's just what I've read about them. And so when they met each other, they found out they had this kind of weird connection because they're both really into the supernatural. And I would definitely say they're both superstitious, not just stitious.
Yes.
And so they made this album. But anyway, I just thought it was a really cool choice. That's a real interesting kind of creepy song. You're going to lose your soul and all that stuff. And it really kind of I think it really fits in very well with this episode and kind of showing how all of these people, their lives are changing this night because of what all of them have discovered or are starting to discover. And so, yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then just this weird thing that it's freaking Ryan Gosling. It's like, what? Are you kidding?
I mean, he's he do Knuff? I mean, that's what I want to know.
He is. He definitely is Knuff. There's no doubt. So yeah.
Best.
Anyway,
Yeah.
The only other thing that I would say that we just didn't. This wasn't really an honorable mention, but we just didn't really talk about is the Renee stuff.
Yeah.
In that the cameras that Paz sets up go off, and we kind of see them watching the footage, and it's weird. Like you see like the box of quartz or something get knocked off the shelf, and then on the other side where you would think whatever it is that pushed it off it's like static or like pixelated or it's like the digital picture is not working correctly. It's all like a bunch, you know what I mean? Like when you see a glitch like that.
Yeah.
And Paz kind of chalks it up to, the camera's probably busted, and so I'll swap it out with another one, But then he says he leaves the live feed on, and of course, they get into happy sexy time, so they're not really paying attention. But the camera moves off of them making out on the couch, and we see the feed, and we see Hank go into that area, and he like starts cleaning it up, and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he calls it Scar. That's the name that he uses.
Yeah.
And so what does that mean?
I know. Hank's involvement is very interesting. It's been sort of like out in the edges there, and we haven't talked about it very much, but it's going to be interesting to see that play out.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is at the end of the autopsy scene that someone saw them in the funeral home and called security, and so they show up, and so Sam kind of sacrifices himself and lets himself be caught and says that he just came to say goodbye to Jack. And so they cuff him and they take him away. But Wally and Judy, they're like hiding in like the coffins, which is funny because Wally's in the coffin that he bought.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, macabre funny. But they get away. And so that was just kind of the other parts of the episode that we didn't really touch on. But I think are going to be important because, like you said, Hank is revealing that, it's possible he's mixed up in this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. I'm interested to see more of what Renee finds on the, I'm interested in that connection to everything. So I hope to learn more.
Yeah,
for sure.
I know nothing.
That's what they all say. Anything else that you think we should discuss? Wrap up part 1 here.
No, I think we did a good job. But like I said, it's 40 minutes. It zips by. It's really fun and interesting. And there's some poignant moments. There's obviously a lot of funny moments. And there's a couple of weird, potentially creepy moments. And so it kind of does a little bit of everything. I like I said, my favorite episode of the whole series.
Yeah, very interesting. All right, folks, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break then. When we come back, we're going to discuss our listener feedback and what's coming up on the podcast.
So everyone, please stick around because we will be right back.
Hi, this is Tom Savini, and you're listening to the Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. And don't forget to always aim for the head because body shots just don't work.
Hey, this is Patricia Tallman, and you're listening to the Aim for the Head podcast with Diana and Steve. Don't forget to always aim for the head because body shots just don't work, and I should know.
Hey there, everybody. We are back. We're going to jump right into our listener feedback, and then we're going to chat a little bit about stuff that's coming up next on the podcast. So first up, listener feedback. I forget. Am I reading the first one or are you reading the first one?
You are reading the first one.
It's really good that, I'm not getting old and forgetful or anything like that. And, we literally just talked about this, 30 seconds ago.
Well, you know what they say, short-term memory, first thing to go.
It is the first thing to go. All right. So the first piece of feedback I have here is our pal and frequent listener and frequent contributor to the podcast, Erica Price. Hey, Erica.
Hey, Erica, what's up?
Erica sent in some thoughts, and she apologizes. She was out of town last week. So these are her thoughts on episode number 2. She sent these in via the email, and first off, she says, hey, I totally agree with you on being disappointed that most of the movies these days are silly remakes and unnecessary reboots of old classics that we love in their original form. Also, curious to know if you guys are watching Widow's Bay on Apple TV. I'm not, because I don't have Apple TV.
Same with me. Yeah, I don't have, there's too many pay channels, right?
Yeah.
I can't afford to get them all. I don't have that. So.
Yeah, and Apple TV was one of the ones where I watched the least amount of things, and I let it go a while ago. And every time something interesting like this pops up, I'm like,
Right. I mean, I want to watch Silo, and there's a bunch of shows that are on there that I'm like, that sounds kind of cool. But, there's the thing with Rhea Seehorn that everyone's talking about that, is supposed
Pluribus,
to be. Pluribus, yeah. But I'm just like, I can't. I can't, people. I can't. I already have paid channels I don't really watch. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I'm very interested in Widow's Bay because it's very, Northeast, New England coded. It's all very it's on an island. A pal of mine from high school has a small speaking role in it. I think he's only in for a little bit in one episode. And I messaged him and I was like, hey, that's great to see. Any more of you this season? He's like, no more episodes this season. And I was like, but if there's a second season, I'm like, hooray! And they just announced today that they're renewing it for a season 2. So hopefully my pal, Chris Shula, will be able to be in season 2.
Ooh, I like it.
Excuse me. So, anyway.
Oh, you better hurry up and read the feedback while you still have a voice.
I know, here it comes again. All right, so, continuing on, Erica says about episode 2, the key is in the light. Could it be a hint? There's Shaw again, looking helly sketchy. Poor Judy, I hate that she's so sad. It was a clue. He found the key finally. I really like Renee and Paz together. What is up with this murder of crows suddenly hitting the dirt? Sam's found the storage locker. Looks like the golden idol from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yes!
Yes, it was.
Did Sam find more than just the owl in the locker? Where did he get the blood?
Interesting.
So, thank you for writing in about episode 2, Erica, and I'm sorry, we are not watching Widow's Bay.
We are not, no. And the blood, remember Renee, I just called you Renee. Wow. No, Erica. The blood, Erica, comes from, he hits the thing, the monster with that hammer that he has.
Yeah, it was on
that's
his hammer.
That's where the blood comes from. Yeah. So, if you rewatch that at the very end of, I think it's episode 1, right? That's where he, episode 1 or episode 2, whenever that sequence happens, when Jack, is being feasted on by the beastie.
In distress, as it were.
Yes. So, but yeah, some interesting points there that I think a lot of the stuff it's kind of cool. A lot of the stuff that you pointed out, Erica, we were talking about as well. So
Absolutely.
I think we're kind of on the same wavelength there. Yeah. Interesting.
So thanks for your episode 2 feedback. And now...
Yes, we got another email from Erica Price. Hey, Erica, I haven't heard from you in a while. This is so cool. So, yes, and she put in her thoughts for episode 3, completely unprompted by Diana.
Nobody emailed her at all.
No, there was no coercion at all. Yeah. She goes on to say, I can't believe Judy is suspicious of Sam and Wally. Surely they're not up to anything, right? And then she has the winking emoji. And all I would say is they're not, and please don't call me Shirley. She goes, I'm worried about Art. It doesn't seem like he's brought enough water for his vision quest.
That's a good, it's a very responsible observation.
Yes. If you're going to go out in the middle of the desert on foot, always bring a lot of liquid. You know, you just a good plan. He goes on to go, Sam has lock-picking tools he's never used? Odd. Yeah, it was. But again, he's using a YouTube video, so maybe it was like just common household items, right? You never know. She goes on to say, expired pepper spray. Ha! Yeah, that was very funny. Just how they're like, oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, it's not, it's water. What's going on? Then she goes, Gina Davis, you 70-year-old cougar. Get it! And then she goes, why is Hank zeroing in on the courts in the community center? How did he know about the disturbance? Interesting. Oh. And then zombies in the funeral home. Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
When someone at the office calls him on his walkie-talkie, and he's like, yeah. And he's like, go for Hank. And they're like, there's someone saw people walking around in the funeral home, and he's like, you mean like zombies? And there's like a pause, and then like the person goes, they didn't say. But yeah, that was funny. And then Erica wraps it up by saying, well, crap, can somebody check Wally's throat too?
Yeah.
Which is true. No, there was never a, hey, can you look in my throat and see if I've got him too? So yeah, interesting.
Hey, and she brings up a good point, and thank you for your feedback, Erica, as always.
Yes, thank
totally
you so
unprompted.
much.
Nobody emailed you and browbeat you into sending in feedback at all.
Never.
I would never do that. So she brought up Gina Davis, and I wanted to ask you a question, because I feel like they set up a couple of things in this episode to make you feel like Paz wasn't getting down and dirty with a 70-year-old woman. And let me tell you why. Because she told the story about how she came there to live with her mom.
Right, because she had money problems, yeah.
So she's not the owner of that house. She came there to live with her mom after her marriage fell apart. Whatever age she was, that wasn't established. But they do, the way she runs that class at the community center and things like that, they sort of play her off as a youngster amongst these ladies, right?
Yep.
Then when they're at the coffee shop, Art calls her kiddo.
Yep.
So I'm wondering...
All true.
Now, in real life, Gina Davis is actually over 70. But I'm wondering if they're trying to paint her as, like, a soft, like, early 60s, maybe? So that it's... You know what I mean? So that it would make the whole relationship-y thing more believable-ish? I don't know. I mean, she's attractive no matter what. Regardless of what they try to play her at, she is the age she is, and she looks like that, and she still is very attractive as she is. So, I don't know what you thought about that. Did you catch on that, or did you think anything about it?
I picked up on it that they kind of, we get her story and she's trying to, it comes across as she's like, look, I'm not old.
Right.
That like the only reason that I'm here is like I didn't have a choice. It was, a money thing, and I was getting sued and divorced, and it was bad. And I didn't, the only option I had was to move in with my mother. Oh my God. And then, later on when her mother passes away, she's like, I just decided to stay. And I think they are. I think they're trying to soften, like you said, this, what could be some criticism from groups of like, what's the age appropriateness of this relationship, which I mean, I would point out like, look, this is pretty progressive because it's an old lady getting a young guy. And usually it's the other way around, when you have 90-year-old Sean Connery romancing Catherine Zeta-Jones, who's like 29, you know what I mean? So yeah. So I did pick up on it, and you're right. There's probably a little bit of that in there. They just want to kind of say, she's actually not as old as you think.
Yeah, almost kind of like trying to soften the image of it.
Yeah.
And I mean, it is what it is. She read as a little younger the way they were playing her off the bat. Like it felt like she was at least younger souled because of, I'm not as old as these people here. She could have been the exact same age as everybody in the cul-de-sac, but they gave her all of these attributes to make her seem like very, I'm using air quotes here, young at heart kind of thing.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, she's got her cool sports car, right? She, she teaches the classes. She's up and out and about early. I mean, clearly they're showing her off as energy and active, and not like oh, I'm just gonna stay in bed today. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I think they are. I think they're definitely trying to like create this image of she's like. Like late, like you said, like maybe mid to late 60s,
right.
Not, because somehow that would be better, that like 28-year-old Paz is shacking up with a 68-year-old as opposed to a 72-year-old or whatever, but.
Yeah. But either way, I like, just like you, Erica, I like the two of them together. I think it works nicely. They have good chemistry, and it's not forced. Like, it's not just like, oh, attractive older lady and young guy, like flirty. Like, they actually have things in common. Mm-hmm. And I like that they went so far, like, when he took his shirt off, he's got the tattoos, so he read very, like, rock and roll, it just, and we don't know how old Paz is, you know what I mean? He could be as old as, like, he could be in his early 40s, because he was doing this other thing and then came back to help out his sister and whatever. So he could be a little older than he like initially reads as, but anyway, I'm glad to know that it wasn't just me that sort of picked up on those cues of like, we're trying to make her seem a little younger than the rest of the crew. So it's not just me. Thank you. Thank you again, Erica, for your continued commitment to sending us feedback. We appreciate it.
Yes, we
look forward
really
to
do.
it for next week as well.
So Carlos Miranda, who plays Paz, he's 42 in real life.
Oh, he is.
So
interesting.
Interesting, yes.
Yeah.
But Erica, thank you so much. Some really, really good feedback. We always love it when you send stuff in. That's so cool.
Absolutely. So next week we will be discussing the next episode in the chain of episodes for the Boroughs. Episode number 4. Title of the episode
halfway.
I can't believe we're already there. Title of the episode is Forbidden Fruit. And here is the description that we've been given so far is Art savors the fruits of his explorations.
See what they did there?
These guys, whoo, so good.
That chatbot.
Continuing on, it says, Blaine warns Sam that curiosity comes with consequences. Ooh. And then Renee makes a shocking discovery.
That Paz is only 42.
Right. He's older than she thinks he is. She thinks he's like this youngin', like 20s or 30s. Woo woo.
Yeah. No. She's cradle robbing, just not as old of a cradle. You know what I mean?
So that's next week's episode. And let's chat a little bit about what we've been up to lately. Steve, I know you went to the movies this past week. Did you want to discuss Obsession?
Oh, I'm obsessed by it. It's so good. I did. I would recommend it. It's very entertaining. I kind of had a personal reason to see it because about 6 or 7 years ago, I wrote a one-act radio play that kind of has the same general plot to it. And so I was real curious to see how they were going to wrap things up versus how I did, which, made me want to go see it. But it's that kind of classic story of, boy pines for girl, thinks she's the greatest, is totally in love with her. Girl, as far as we know, has boy firmly in the friend zone.
Yes.
And does not have any romantic feelings, at least that we know of. And boy is so, obsessed with her, so taken with her, has to have her, that he decides that obviously the correct thing to do is to dabble in the black arts and make a wish that she love him more than anyone else on earth. And then when the wish starts to work, the rest of the movie is how boy starts to realize that he might have a problem of some magnitude. So yeah, and the two leads, they're really good, especially her. She is really good, but he's good too. And I think the reason why I think she's better is she gets a lot more of the fun stuff to do, because she just gets more wackadoodle as the movie goes on, as she just is so obsessed with him, what I mean? And so on. And he's kind of playing the normal guy, trying to keep everything in check and under control as it's getting, crazier and crazier. But again, they're both really good. The movie's a lot of fun. The way they ended it was interesting. Again, it's not what I did, but it was still pretty interesting. And I, like I said, I enjoyed it. I highly recommend it. I think so far the horror movie season has been pretty good this year so far. Yeah. That there are a lot more movies that I really enjoyed than that I came out and went, that was 90 minutes I'll never get back, So yeah, it's still out in theaters. It's doing really well. When I saw it, the theater, this was a Wednesday night at 9:00, and the theater, I would say, had 2 or 3 empty seats. I mean,
wow.
It was a full house, so I was very, very impressed by that. So it's doing well at the box office, and so.
I feel like a lot of the movies this past month or so that are, genre-based, have gotten a lot of word of mouth, and then as soon as they get to the theater, I feel like every time I turn around, someone is talking about Obsession. So I feel like it's got a lot of groundswell that's keeping it in the theaters a little bit longer than things are in the theaters these days, which is good to hear, I really, really need to see Backrooms. Just haven't yet.
Yeah. I have not. That's next on my list as well. Yeah. And then of course there's the Spielberg Disclosure Day came out, so that is obviously a huge tentpole movie, and I want to see that. And and then we've got coming up, we have Evil Dead Burn, and there's a lot of good stuff on the horizon here. So definitely get out to the movies if you can.
Yeah.
And see some of these things because they're fun and you'll have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. So. Before we wrap it up, we forgot to talk about it last week, but we will sort of give them a shout out this week, which is this past weekend, there was the Living Dead Weekend Convention, which is Steve has attended twice in the past.
3 times.
3? Oh, look at you. And I've gone with Steve once. So much fun. This is the convention that happens at the Monroeville Mall, which is the filming location of Dawn of the Dead. And so this is just like a celebration of George Romero. The Romero movies, specifically Dawn of the Dead, there's a lot of love that. But it's a standard convention, like horror movie convention, but it takes place in the mall. There is a museum there that is run at the mall called the Living Dead Museum. They've got such an amazing treasure trove of artifacts from not just Romero films, but other really great, like, classic horror movies. That museum is fantastic. There's so much really great stuff there. The thing is, was it earlier this year or like late in the year last year? The mall was actually sold, and it was bought by Walmart.
Yep.
And Walmart hasn't made any determination on what they're going to do with the building yet. And the folks that run the Living Dead Museum, who run this convention, have said that they don't know. There's no word yet on what the plans are. There's a lot of effort happening about trying to preserve as many things as they can about the filming location, etc. But in theory, if things don't go the right way, this past weekend was what will probably be the last Living Dead weekend. And it was a really great reunion of about as many Dawn of the Dead people as they could possibly get. It was just like chock full of all of the cast members, some really great other horror movie people. Greg Nicotero was there. Great panels, great discussions. I follow the group on Facebook. Everybody was posting stuff. People were having a wonderful, wonderful time. Those panels were packed to the gills. Some great photos, great meetups people had. It's just a wonderful convention. Everybody there, the people that throw it are such nice people. It reminds me of the crew that does the Flashback Weekend. They're just in it for the fun of doing a good show. The mall tour that's run by Larry, he's just amazing. It's like a 2-hour walking tour, and it goes like that. We've talked about it on the podcast in the past. So we just want to give our best wishes to everybody. We certainly are hoping for the best for the Living Dead Museum folks and for everybody involved with the convention and with the mall. We're wishing them all the best. We prepared for the worst, obviously, but we're certainly hopeful, so we're keeping our eyes open. If we hear of anything, any petitions or anything, we may share on the page and would love for people to be involved. But yeah, if you get a chance before anything happens to the mall, they still have that museum running. You can go there when there is no convention. Go to the museum and check things out. You can walk around the museum, walk around the mall, and see some of the filming locations, etc. So it's still there as a place to visit. Just outside of Pittsburgh. It's really, really, really great. And if you get a chance to go, that's great. But yeah, wishing them all the best. That's for sure.
Just a slight alteration to that is that there actually is going to be another show in October in the mall.
Right.
Another Living Dead convention, but this was the big Dawn of the Dead one. That
Right.
one's going to be more of a Night of the Living Dead. But after that, the Walmart will not commit and let them reserve stuff for next year and beyond. And everyone pretty much believes that they filed. Petition plans with the city to basically tear it down and build like a big Walmart there. So that's probably what they're going to do.
Right.
So, but you're right. This was the big Dawn of the Dead show that was exclusively Dawn of the Dead. And like I said, in like late September or October, they're going to do another show, which is going to be more Night of the Living Dead focused, but I'm sure there will be a lot of Dawn people there as well anyway. So you still have another chance if you've always wanted to go see this, if this is something you always thought would be fun to make the trip and go to the mall and see the location. You still have a chance to do that where there'll be a convention, but time is definitely running out.
Yeah, absolutely. So we hope for the best, in this instance of, corporate life. It doesn't look good, and it, if history is any indicator, it's probably, it's probably not going to go in the way that we would sort of want it to go. But
no. Well, shopping malls are dying anyway. I mean,
sure.
It's there was some talk for a little while that they were going to try and get the site like commissioned like a national landmark, like a historical landmark or a historical building, and that would obviously prevent someone from tearing it down. But I don't know if that, had got any traction or did anything and so on. And clearly, I mean, the owner sold it to Walmart, so that part is done. So it's, it's under new management. It's just a question of, like you said, when are things going to happen and what are they going to actually do? But you're right. I saw all the posters, all the posts and the pictures and stuff from everybody that weekend, and I was very, very jealous. I really wanted to go. I was planning on going because I knew this was probably the last one. And then John Carpenter was announced that he was coming to Chicago to sign autographs, and that's where all my money went. And then on top of it, then Kurt Russell was announced that he's coming to Chicago now, and that's where one of my kidneys is going to go. So I could not afford to get out to Pittsburgh this year, which is too bad because, like I said, I've been there a couple times, you've been there once, and it's a really, really fun weekend, a really cool show.
So if we're lucky, maybe plans to demolish or tear down or do something to the mall, maybe they get pushed off for a year. You know how development of that stuff works. Maybe it'll take a year, 2 years for them to get their plans approved by the local, what have you. So is there a possibility that could be another one this time next year? There's a possibility, but I wouldn't bet on it too much. But like you said, there's the one that happens in the fall, the Night of the Living Dead one. So there's still opportunity. So if you can, and if you've been looking for a convention that would sort of be, historic, this would be the one. This would be the one to go to, for sure, if you can swing it. But we're wishing them all the best. Those guys are great. We hope they land on their feet no matter what happens. So yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. Anything else we need to chat about before we wrap things up here?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, there's a bunch of good movies out, so go see them. And, let's get into next week, episode 4. Like we said, I can't believe we're halfway through. I mean, it just goes so damn quick. And hey, Dead City. Yep. Getting closer. Getting closer.
It's right there. It's in the horizon. We can see it soon.
It is. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. So that's going to be coming up soon in the next few weeks. Next week we talk about episode 4, as we discussed. But until we get there, as always, I'm Diana.
And I'm Steve.
Don't forget to always aim for the head.
'Cause body shots just don't work. To send us an email, write us at aimfortheheadpodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @AFTH Podcast. Pictures and video are always welcome at our Instagram account, Aim for the Head Podcast, all one word. But the best way to keep in touch with us is to just like our Facebook page to get all of our updates in your feed. All I know is I called you and it rang 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 so much eventually it went, I don't think they're here, we're just going to stop. And I've never had that happen before. I'm like, okay.